Welcome to Souls on Tap. I'm Julianne Thon.
And I'm Jennifer Cross.
Today, we'd like to welcome Randall Smith, who has had an intense endeavor when he was just 6 years old during his near-death experience. Randall's case was an event later studied by Dr. Bruce Grayson, an American psychiatrist, author, and near-death experience researcher. In this episode, Randall shares how that moment transformed his life as it awakened his psychic gifts, allowing him to guide souls as a psychopomp, setting him on a path through shamanism, Reiki, and intuitive healing. Welcome, Randall.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Jennifer.
Correct me if I'm wrong. A psychopomp is a guide of souls to the afterlife. Is that so?
That is correct.
I had to look it up because I had never heard about it before.
Yeah, a lot of people do have to look that up. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that also referred to as a death doula?
Yes.
Ah,
Okay.
that's interesting. So, gosh, a lot of times I ask our guests to talk about what their life was like before their near-death experience, but you were only 6.
Yes.
So I guess we can just get right into it. And can you talk about the event and set it all up for us so that we know what happened during your near-death experience?
Okay, we'll do. Well, it all started when my dad wanted me to go with him to look at a car. He worked on cars and stuff when we were younger. So we went over to these people that my dad knew, went to their garage, and there were 4 or 5 guys in the garage. I don't really remember at this point how many. But he was working on the car. I was inside the garage. I was outside the garage. I was inside the garage. I'm 6. I'm a kid. I'm playing. So I'm inside the garage and I'm behind the garage, or not behind the garage, but I'm behind the car. And I didn't realize that the car was running at the time. So they were standing at the walk-in door where they can go outside and get some air and this and that, so they were doing that. I wasn't. I was playing in the back of the car. I remember getting dizzy, and then I went out. When I fell, I busted my head on the bumper. That's how they knew I was in the garage. So at that particular point, I went right to the light. And when I went to the light, there were 2 spiritual beings, very shimmery, shining beings on either side of me. And they stayed with me the entire time that I was in the experience itself. So we went to different cities, celestial cities. There were crystals everywhere. It was glowing. It was shimmering. The beings beside me were shimmering. I didn't know that I was dead. I had no idea. I thought I was dreaming, So we walked on and we went through different hallways and, again, different cities. And at one point we walked down a hallway, and the hallway had little shimmering lines on it. And they were just stacked up lines, and I didn't really know what that was. Stacked this way, stacked that way. There was just a bunch of lines. And later on, I come to realize that that was the Akashic records of everybody's life that had been lived. So we went on down through there. We went to a lot of different places. What sticks with me the most is when we came to this one hallway, and it opened up into a huge room. And again, the room was crystally shimmering. And in the middle of the floor in this room, the room was big. I was just 6 years old, but I couldn't have any judgment on how big it was, but it was big. So we were walking in this room, and I noticed a big hole. It wasn't in the floor. It was a well that I was looking at. And it was shaped like a stop sign laying down. So it was an octagon-shaped well. So we walked up to the edge of the well. And as we did, I noticed that there was confetti. It looked like confetti all throughout the well, just going everywhere in this well, up and down, and it had like an energy of life to it. So I was urged to put my hands in the well and kind of do that. So I put my hands in the well, and in the process of doing it, I felt a light tingling sensation. It wasn't like I was being electrocuted. It was like I was in a harmonic resonance type of deal. I felt very vibrant, very alive. I didn't know I was dead. I was alive, but I was dead, type of deal. But I had my hands in this, and I'm getting a light tingling sensation. So I pull my hands back, and as I did that, I'm kind of looking at my fingers, and I'm wondering why I'm glowing so much. I didn't have a physical body, but I thought I was dreaming. So I'm looking at my hands, and then I get the impression in my head from the being on my right. And I get the impression that I can go where I would like to go. And as that came into my mind, I saw a tunnel in front of me, to both sides and behind me. So I did a little scan, and I'm looking, and I'm looking back. And in these tunnels, it was white and glowing, and it had, again, shimmering type of or not information, but vibrations to it. So I scanned to the left, and I scanned back to the left again. When I did, I woke up on a couch in these people's houses. They took the oxygen off of me, and they were doing CPR, so I was very sore. We went to the doctors after that, and then the doctor told me to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital. I spent a day in the hospital, and they let me go. So that was kind of that. But throughout the time of this experience, I started seeing things immediately. I started seeing spirits. I started hearing things. I started sensing what the animals were thinking and saying, and I was tuned in, but I had no idea what was going on with me. I grew up in a Southern Baptist family. My mom's dad was a Southern Baptist minister. So every time you turn around, you're going to hell for something or another. You're going to go to hell, So I started telling my parents about what I experienced, and it was never talked about anymore after a few times of me talking with them. They just didn't bring it up. I don't know if they were embarrassed, didn't believe me, or whatever. But over the next few years, you can't help but to see things and hear things and sense things. Lights go crazy, I can't wear a watch. I haven't been able to ever wear a watch and it continue to run. So when I'm around electricity and stuff, it goes on and off. And if I get really excited, lights blow. So what do you do with this? So I'm asking my mom and dad about all this, and they don't know. And they don't lie. Stop lying. Stop lying. This didn't happen to you. Stop lying. So I repressed it. I held it in. I have a bunch of friends growing up, and I would tell them about what I experienced, and it scares them. I mean, it scares people. Oh, Lord, oh, you're the devil and all this crap. I don't believe in any of that. So, anyways, a little later on, you get to repressing it, you get to holding it in, and you can't talk to anybody. If you talk to somebody, you have the church, you have psychiatrists who think you're crazy to begin with. And if you say anything about being able to do things psychically, then of course, you're the weird dude, man. So I got to the point where I just didn't say anything to anybody. In my teens, absolutely not. I would predict things here and there and freak out my friends and some family members. But for the most part, I kept quiet because, again, I grew up in a Southern Baptist family. So every time I turned around, stop lying, you're going to hell, son. Come on. And so I just didn't say anything. Or after a point, in my early 20s, I'd already had my first divorce, and it was just crazy. It really was just crazy because you see things, you sense things, you hear things, you know things. I can look at you and tell you you're lying, or I can look at you and see spirit around you. I can sense what you're doing and this and that. If I touch you, I can tell you what you had for breakfast. So those are the kind of things I grew up with, and not really knowing who am I going to talk to
Oh
about
my
any of this
gosh.
stuff that's going on
Oh
here.
yeah.
So of course, you're a liar. You're a liar. Okay, whatever. Here, come here. Let me touch you for a second. Oh, you ain't touching me. So I would get that a lot. So I find it weird growing up that my mom, every time she had a headache or something was going on, she would have me either touch her arm, her back, or give her a kiss on her forehead or something. And she'd say instantly, it's gone. My pain is gone. I would feel a little bad for about an hour, and then I would shake that off, not knowing what I was doing again. I would shake that off and go about my business. I started playing music at about 7 years old. I'm a drummer. I'm a retired professional musician. I play drums, guitar, saxophone, harmonic, and the bass. And I played a guitar this morning for just a little bit. For the most part, I don't do that professionally at all anymore. It's just for my own creativity. So I started doing that, being able to channel what I'm hearing and sensing and feeling through music. So I got hired at 14 years old to go play in a nightclub. They had to ask my parents to go do this, and during the breaks, I had to go in the back room, like a case of beer or something. So they would send me to the back room and this and that. I started seeing spirit in all these bars that I was playing in. So that was really messing me up too, because I would see somebody walk by and they would say something to me, and I'd say hi again, and I never would see that individual again. So that happened to me a lot when I was playing music in those types of environments.
So these were spirits that were walking by, you think?
Yes, I know they were,
Wow.
without a
Wow.
doubt in my mind.
That would be a little
Absolutely.
distracting.
It was. Oh,
You're trying to
distracting.
perform and oh my gosh.
Well, being 14, 15, 16 years old, you're already nervous from being where you're at. When a spirit walks by
Sure.
me, I get hypersensitive. So I can't focus on anything but what's going on around me. Oh,
Oh,
what song was
wow.
you playing again? I'm sorry. Go ahead and do that again, type of deal.
Wow.
So I had that going on in my early 20s, somewhere around 25, 26, I think it was, maybe 27, 25, in that area right there. I heard about shamanism and I was given a book by Dr. Michael Harner. And then I started reading that, and that really just nailed me what was going on with me, being able to go to the upper world, the lower world, the middle world, and not really knowing what that was called at the time. So I dove into that, and I become a shamanic practitioner and still am today. That's what I do. So I dove into that. I learned how to do soul retrievals, get rid of spirits, and not get rid of spirits, help them cross over. It's called extrication and soul unraveling and curse unraveling and things of that sort. So I learned how to do that. And in the process of doing that, it's hard to get people to come and see you when you say I'm a shamanic practitioner. And of course, everything new age is of the devil. I don't believe in the devil. I was married before, but I don't believe in that. Sorry about that. No disrespect to anyone. So I studied that and I really dove headfirst into that. And I noticed that more and more spirits were coming to me because I learned how to properly help you cross over. So in the process of doing that, how do you get people to come to you? So I dove into Reiki. I become a Reiki master. And then afterwards, I can use the guise of giving you a Reiki treatment as helping souls cross over because 90% of those who came to see me needed some sort of extrication or they had attachments galore on them. I cannot tell you how many attachments I removed from people who are alcoholics. And once the alcoholic was removed, they stopped drinking cold turkey and they didn't know how that ever happened because a lot of people have to go to AA in order to figure out how to get the right tools to be able to stop drinking. If they knew it was as easy as getting another person off of you, then I mean, it would be pretty simple at that point. But a lot of people don't realize that's what's going on. So I dove into that. And in the process of doing that, I studied palmistry very early in life because the hands always interested me. I had read a quote by somebody that your fate is literally in the palm of your hands. And I know that the lines and stuff in your hands absolutely mean they can mean your world. So if you properly knew how to read palms, then you could help people in that aspect too. All I got to do is touch you. Let me read your palm. And as soon as I touch you, I can tell if you have an attachment on you or not, because my energy goes through the roof and I start seeing faces. It's not that I'm schizophrenic or nothing like that. I was trained on how to do this. So I just touch you. I can see if you got an attachment on you, or I can walk by you and feel the energy that's going on with you too. That's I get a lot of calls every week from people that want me to do their homes or their businesses, or I've done automobiles, I've done motorcycles before. It's kind of crazy, but if a
Clearings? You mean like clearings?
yeah, clearing. So it's kind of crazy that an energy I could be so attached to something that when I die I don't want to leave it. I find
Mhm.
that hard to swallow. Of course my daughter would be the case. I would definitely be there for her regardless if I'm alive or dead, so I'll always be there for that. But for somebody to hang on to the possession, I I don't know why you would, but it happens all the time. And I cross things over like that all the time. So I dove into those, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. And at a very early age, it was really weird for me. Again, all I had to talk with was my mom and dad and my grandfather, Southern Baptist minister. I played music in church. So I was always around that because that's where my soul seemed to feel. I would see spirits in the congregation on the backstage and the front and things like that. So that was where I was guided to be. And like I was saying, I find it hard early on in life. I would get kids come up to me and ask me for advice. I would get adults come up to me and ask me for advice. I would get married couples come up to me and ask me for married advice.
Wow.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that. But you know, by the grace of God and my guides, I was able to give what was needed at that time because most of the time I didn't see them again. And if I did, they said thank you. So when you're guided by your true divinity and your true purpose, things like that happen to you all the time. So that's kind of where I'm at this particular moment. I'm in the process too of opening a healing center. I've got the building just about done, and I'm bringing in some systems that will help bring healing to people. I've got some stuff that's absolutely remarkable as far as equipment wise as goes. You know, the new venture in healing is vibration, frequency, and colors. So that's where I'm at with that right now. And I love it. I love it. I love helping people. So
What a story. What a story.
Wow, that's a lot.
that's a lot.
If you can just back up for a minute, because I'm a mother and a parent in this
Okay.
life. I'm thinking about you at 6 years old and beyond, the whole time you were living with your parents, and you're basically told that you're either of the devil or you're doing devil's work or you're crazy or you're a liar. So from a psychological standpoint, how did that affect you, Randall? How did you keep from just giving it all up and saying, I'm not going to do this because my parents are right?
I find solace in being able to play music and spend time in nature and go fishing with my dad. My dad was very open. I could talk to him. But when we talked about things spiritual like that, he changed the course of the conversation. So music to me, and I love to read. I like to write. I like to draw. So to me, it was being able to channel the music. You know, it's a different thing to turn on the radio and hear that coming out of the radio. It's another thing to be able to create that sound that comes out of the radio. So by diving into that and then studying, that's pretty much what I did. But the music to me was a solace because I played with a lot of different people growing up. So that was definitely a way to be able to channel that energy. And when I did see spirit come from behind a bar or from around somebody or step out of somebody for a brief second and step back into somebody for a brief second, give me another beer or something, to kind of dumb it down a little bit. But it gets to a point for me that I couldn't dumb it down anymore. It was right there in my face and I had to learn how to deal with it. So by studying the shamanism and palmistry and Reiki and color therapy and things of that sort, I was able to bring everything from the past to the front and kind of shuffle the deck a little bit and get rid of some cards and use what was given to me. So that's kind of how I did it.
Wow.
And I learned again at an early age just not to talk to anybody about this. I learned to be quiet. And I gets to a point where you got to say something because if you don't, you're going to get sick. And I got sick
Yeah.
and I hurt myself often. There for a while, I broke a finger every year. I broke a rib every year for a few years, and I broke my ankle or broke a toe. So it's like, okay, spirits want me to stop doing what I'm doing and go in and figure out how I can bring this stuff that is in here out here. So that was why those things were going on for me too. So again, I thank God I haven't hurt myself in a while because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do instead of, over here trying to make a living doing that and trying to make a living doing that when I need to focus on doing this and helping people make a living. And then my stuff will come as it's supposed to. That's
So the
kind of
gift,
how
the gift of music was given to you by source after
I
your accident. You didn't have that before. You weren't attracted to it.
You're exactly
I
right,
mean,
Jennifer. You're
okay,
exactly
because I know
right.
you were just a child, a six, but
Yep.
still, a
Yep.
6-year old, you can tell if they're a musician just the way they tap their foot or
Yep.
sing.
Yeah. Because 7 years old, I had a drum set. My mom and dad bought me a drum set at 7. So, I came out with a gift and I've been using it ever since. Albeit I haven't played my drum kit now in about 20 years, but they're still upstairs and they're set up and ready for me to go. So, for the most part. But yeah, I definitely picked up those gifts from spirit, absolutely, without a doubt in my mind. Because I could play multiple instruments and I was never really trained.
Yeah.
I took lessons later in life, but I was never trained.
Yeah. It's
That's
amazing
beautiful.
because the state, when we're in the state of creativeness or creativity, that in itself has its own energy that is incredible.
Absolutely.
I believe that when we are in that spiritual zone, so to speak, we are just about as close to source as we can get.
Absolutely.
Because I
Absolutely.
believe that source is all about creativity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know that when I'm playing with 4 or 5 other guys or a woman in the band or whatever the case may be, there's a thing called the pocket
Mhm.
when everything is just, you're on it, and everybody's looking at each other going, yeah, that's source. Ooh, I just got cold chills. Ooh, wee.
Yeah, me
That is
too.
pure, that is pure source right there. And I
Right?
love that.
Right.
I love that. And I get that when I'm doing hands-on healing with people. If I'm doing a shamanic journey, I get the same connection, the ebb and flow, it's remarkable. I love this. We are electric beings, and if we can tune in, it's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Mhm. So you think that music and that creativity helped you to help not only to ground you, but it also helped you recognize that your spiritual gifts were there because they were supposed to be, that in fact they
Absolutely.
were gifts.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing because a lot of times kids, by the time they're 12, 13, it's such a difficult time. I don't care what decade you were raised in junior high. Those are really difficult years
Yes,
because
they are.
everybody's trying to figure out what's up with them. Your physical aspect of puberty and everything else is going on, your emotions, and it's a really tough time.
And then
And
you
you,
get the peer group pressure on top of that.
that absolutely. And yet you were able to get through that. And that is pretty amazing. Do you feel like you had an extra push from your guides or your angels to
Ain't a
help
doubt in
you?
my mind. There's not a doubt in my mind that they were pushing and shoving, and I was screaming and hollering the entire time until I let go. So okay,
Uh,
okay. So you want me to do this? Okay. So you want me to help people cross over? Oh my God, how am I going to do this? So you figure it out, and the irony to that, Julian, is when you're ready, so are they. And all of a sudden you get flooded with and sometimes it can be chaos in the head trying to figure out, I'm buzzing really bad right now. It, it can be chaos in your head as to try and figure out how to channel this. What do I do? What do I focus on? Where do I need to go first? Boom, here's a sign. Oh, okay, we'll go over there. Boom, here's another sign. Okay, I'll go over there. And all of a sudden there's a billboard. You're going, oh,
Yeah.
hey, cool. We'll do that. So yeah, paying attention to signs to me, and I thanks, Dad. Thank you. I used to go fishing with my dad all the time, and I would love to do it again. He passed away at 50 in 1982.
oh,
So
that's pretty young.
it was,
Yeah.
he died at 50, just turned 50, he died of cancer. But anyways, we used to go fishing all the time. And just being outside with my dad and just being outside in general, listening to the animals, I mean, it was remarkable. If you can really tune in, they'll talk to you. Honestly, they'll really talk to you. And it's not your imagination, but it's got to come in there some way. So it does come from your imagination because that's where the creativity and the spirit world works, is in your dream state, which is your imagination. So it's got to come out of there. Can I tell you a quick story about animals?
Another one. Yeah, great.
Okay, cool. Here about 20 years ago, a little longer, 25, somewhere in that area, I was over cutting my grass, and I had a an edger, trimming the edge of the driveway and the sidewalk, and it's loud. Some, and I'm edging it, and I hear, hey, you there. So I stop and I look around, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Sorry for making so much noise, but there's nobody around. So I go back and I edge again, and it's just making god awful noises. I'm hitting the concrete and the grass and everything else. They're loud, and I hear, hey, you there. So I stop again and I look around and I don't see anybody. I look behind me. There's nobody hollering at me. There's nobody anywhere. So I go back again and I hear, hey, you there. So I stop, and at this time I'm getting kind of mad. So I gently,
Somebody's playing a trick, right?
somebody's messing with me. So I gently laid the edger down, and I hear, hey, you there. So I look and I hear, hey, buddy. I don't see Julian, Jen, I see nobody. There's nobody anywhere.
Oh
So I
my
was like,
gosh.
oh, come on. I smoked a little pot early in life and I'm okay. I'm not,
Coming home to roost.
we're good, So I hear, hey, you there. And I go, okay, I'm going towards that direction. So hey, you there, buddy. So I'm going, so I walk over, and there's a tree in my yard. And I thought it was the house on the opposite side of the tree. I hear, hey, you there. And I look up, and there's a little goldfinch. And he's going, hey, you there. I'm going, well, hey, you there. He goes, hey, you there. I'm going, well, hey, you there. He goes, hey, buddy. I'm going, now we're friends.
Wow.
This is crazy, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. So we go back and forth a few times and he flies off. So I'm standing there actually dumbfounded and bewildered, thinking, what is going on? I mean, seriously, what is going on? So I finished doing what I'm doing, and at this point, that has mesmerized me to where I can't focus on anything. And I mean, it messed me up. It messed me up. So I go in and talk to the lady that I'm partners with, and I get in my truck and I go over to the shop, which is about a 10-minute drive. So I get over, I bring my dog with me. I had a little dog named Chivy. So I bring her with me, and I let her out. And we walk out the back of the shop and I hear, hey, you there. And I'm going, are you kidding me right
Oh
now?
my gosh.
So I look up and there's that little finch that's on the top of my building on the gutter looking at me going, hey,
Oh,
you there.
wow.
Hey, you there. Hey, we do this. And I'm going, I've lost my flipping mind at this point. So we do that for a little bit and the bird flies off, and I'm stuck in this scenario now for the next few months because I didn't see the bird again. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't do drugs earlier. I drank a little beer here and there earlier, but I didn't do anything that would cause this type of stuff to go on. And then I'm thinking, my guides are really messing with me now. So it's like a couple months later, I go down to the other shop. We had a healing center at that point, and my upholstery shop was 2 doors down. So we owned the whole complex. So I go back down to the store, and I'm ringing somebody out on the cash register. And I look out the front window. It's all windows. It's all it was. And the door was a window door. So it was a store. There was a store. So, and I see a bunch of birds flying around, and there's one continually pecking at the window. And I'm thinking, what in the world? Then I hear in my head, your dog's out. I hear again, your dog's out. Okay, so I tell the lady that's working there with me, I say, I'll be right back. So I walk over to my door. I unlock my front door and I go in and my back door's open. The dog is out back.
Oh my
And I'm going,
gosh.
oh my God, seriously. And I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So ever since that, hey, you there, I get messages from birds all the time now. And I mean,
Wow.
it's really crazy. But again, if you listen to animals, they'll tell you what's going on. I have cats. I don't have a dog anymore. She died a few years back, but I've got cats and they're the same way. If you listen, they'll talk to you. Animals come to me. Just animals come to me all the time. It's crazy. But yeah, that was a quick story for you.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Um, all these animals are helping you, they're giving you cues, and it appears the only other cues that you're getting are, like the occasional billboard or synchronicities, if you will. Um, why do you think that your guides, when you were ready, didn't give you more direction? Because I've spoken to several people that have had NDEs, and generally, like they're just told what to do. And it seems like your path is different in that you have to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's a path of discovery for me.
Right.
It's
Right.
all there. It was all written out.
It was
But
as if,
the discovery thing to me was more like a serendipity.
Mhm.
I'm supposed to do this and we'll make it look like a serendipitous type of thing. Synchronicities are everywhere. I see 333 all the time, 222, 111. It's when you tune yourself up and align with it, then it's better to have a self-discovery instead of somebody telling me you need to go over here and do this. The direction for me early in life was take care of people, help people. So however that was to come about, And I consider my four-legged friends people. I consider my two-legged friends people. I sometimes prefer to be around four-leggeds than I do two-leggeds, At least they don't talk back to you, but when they do, you kind of laugh it off,
So
But anyways, yeah. So
you do.
I do. It was funny. I had a dog. A lady called me one time. She said, "My dog is absolutely possessed." I said, "Okay, sure, fine, whatever." I hear this a lot from everybody. It's the devil and all that. So she brings the dog over. It was a Rottweiler, and this dude was bad, and this dude was mean. I had a Carhartt leather coat on for working outside. So she gets the dog out of the car, and that dog did not like me at all. So he's about waist high. So she goes, "Here's the dog," and he tried to get me. So she's got an actual chain around his neck with a choker on it, and that's cruel to me. So she goes, "Here." She handed me the leash to this dog, and he's already tried to bite me one time. So I grabbed the leash, and he come at me, and I lifted him up, and I said, "No, you must leave." I set the dog down. I I was freaking out because I thought he was going to eat me. So I got him up, and I set him back down again. And he looks at me, comes up and just licks my hand, licks my leg, and everything is cool. He sits down, lets me pet him. Then he gets in the car, and the lady's going, "He's never done that." I said, "Thank God he had never done that." But yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, I think for me, I've pondered this a lot as to why I wasn't given any specific directions, because they told me to go down. You can pick wherever you want to go. And I did, because when I turned left, I woke up on the couch. So, and that direction for me was the left. And it's kind of ironic because everything for me, I have a tendency to go left. If I see something, I go left. So paying attention to the signs is one thing for me. We'll give you the signs. We're not going to tell you, but we'll give you signs. We have free will. So they would give me signs. If I paid attention to the signs, everything worked out good. If I didn't pay attention to the sign, divorce court, type of deal. So here you are. So that's what I believe was for me was, we'll give you the signs. We told you this. You have healing ability because your hands were put in there, but they didn't say you have healing abilities until I did have a vision. It seemed like it was 10 years, maybe later or so. Uh, I wasn't quite a teenager, so it may have been earlier than that. I did have a vision of me standing in a room, and there was a bunch of long-haired, bearded, white-haired guys, and some black people, and some white women, some Native American women, just a bunch of people. And they had told me at that time, "You are amongst the world's greatest healers." What do you do with that? Okay, you just to me, I brushed it off, said, "Okay, cool. Thank you. Why, whatever that's supposed to mean." So then shamanism came into play, Reiki came into play, palm reading came into play, just different things that would have to do with healing came into play shortly after that. So to me, that was a guiding point. That was my light post. That here you go. This is where you're at. I don't consider myself to be a healer. I mean, I'm a hollow bone. Source comes through me, and that's all it is. I'm just a hollow bone. It comes through me, and I ask them for help. It's not like, "Here, get out of the way, Randall's here." No, come on, man. We got Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael. All of them are here. Let's let these folks do the work, and I'll just hold space, and I'll close it when we're done, and we'll make sure nobody's staying behind and things of that sort. So that's kind of what I learned how to do over time. And I really believe that, again, when they appeared to me, that was my guidepost and pillar for, this is what you're supposed to do. And I dove in head first from that point on. This is what I've been doing. Albeit I do have an upholstery business. That's what I do as a living. I do custom and classic cars. That's what I specialize in. I do recording music wise still here and there, but my life purpose is about helping people and helping people cross over. And there are so many trapped souls on this dimension and that dimension. It's just hard to believe that there's that many that didn't cross over. But fear has more to do with that than anything else. For me, for instance, I was afraid I was going to go to hell. And I tell people all the time, I don't believe in hell, but I was married, but I don't believe in hell. And that's no disrespect. I mean, in a harmonic relationship, that's heaven. If you're disharmonic, that's hell. And this is a heaven and hell reality that we're on right now.
Well, and I think that we choose, but
We
you know,
definitely choose.
to Jennifer's point and her question, I really do believe that each of us has our own path, and that your signs and your guidance came to you the way that your soul felt you needed, your oversoul
Absolutely.
felt that you
Absolutely.
needed. Um, who knows if it had been presented any other way, would you have been on it? But this
Right.
worked for you.
Well, and that's exactly where I'm
You
at
know,
too with it, and
and
it's all about soul growth.
it is, and I think like getting back to that wonderful story about the bird. It's so funny you should say that because the other night a bird flew in our house, a little finch, and it was very, very dark, and she kept coming up to this library for some reason. There was something about this, and it's so easy to get off task and to start feeding the energy. My husband was like, "Oh God, there's a bird in the house. We got to get it. We got to get it." Well, we we didn't at that time take that moment and realize the synchronicity of what was happening there. There was a reason that that little bird came into our house. So I just said to him, I think I heard that we turn off all the lights where it's dark and just give one light for his exit. And eventually he flew on out. But that in itself, providing the light for him so that he knew where to go. So I think your antenna needs to be up. I remember a time I had traveled to Bermuda, which is a beautiful island, with my parents and my brother, and we snorkeled almost every day. And I would always go out to this little rock that had a lot of little niches all over it, and it was full of sea urchin. But every time I went, if I waited long enough, this little clownfish would come up to me. So it was very playful. Well, I was very excited. And of course, I went back to shore and I told my parents, "You're not going to believe it, but there's this clownfish." And they're like, right, Julianne. So the next day, snorkel, guess who came to join me? The clownfish. So it did it like 4 or 5 days in a row. And I knew, I knew exactly what was happening then. And I think if we give permission to ourselves to see the beauty and the love and the spirit, how spirit is just around us all the time, then life is can be pretty wonderful.
Yep, absolutely. In remarks to that, I get asked more than not, do you believe in God? My answer to that is no, I don't believe in God. I know God. And that in itself I got cold chills on top of
Yep.
cold chills. To know God, I don't have to believe in something out there.
Right.
God is right here. And all I got to do is look at the bird that's talking to me. That's God. The clouds, that's God. Yeah, everything, I know God. I don't believe in something that I know God. I know God. I felt the energy of the creator when I put my hands in that well. I know God. I don't believe. I know. There's a big
Yeah.
difference between knowing and
When
believing.
when you say that you help spirits cross, do
Okay.
you help the spirits, the soul that is in living people cross, or
Yes.
just ones that are left not going to the light?
I'll help anybody. I'll help any of them. I have helped more. I have removed an attachment is a spirit that is attached to somebody unbeknownst and unwilling to the person that it's attached to. So they're basically just a carrier. They're a host for this other being. I've helped. I'm not I, it's us. We have helped hundreds and hundreds cross over off of physical people. When I do locations, now it gets into the thousands of people, thousands at a time instead of one or two. Now it's thousands at a time. I've done battle places and thousands of people are crossed over. You got time for another quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I could listen to you all day.
Thank you. I can listen to you too. Thank you. You guys are great. Appreciate it. I got a call from a place in southern Indiana. It's a 5-hour drive from here. So they sent me some photos. It's a brand new home. It's an elderly couple, and they have what is called a mountain home. I'm from Tennessee. That's mountains. Southern Indiana, those are big hills. So, anyways, we go to Southern Indiana, and I go up this big hill, and their house is 200 yards probably from the road, and they're an elderly couple, and it's not a slow grade. It's a pretty steep grade going up this big hill. So they build a house halfway down, so it's closer to not having to worry about dying coming down the hill. So the pictures they sent me was of the basement of the home. Now, I know the difference between orbs and dust mites and dust and all that stuff in photos. I've been doing this a long time. So at one point, I counted 150, maybe close to 160 orbs in this one photo. Now, the basement, they've redone one basement wall 3 times at close to 50 or 60 grand per pop to redo a
Why?
wall. It's a foundational wall in the basement because it kept breaking. It would crack from
Oh,
one corner to the other. Orbs
wow.
would appear, the basement wall would crack. Orbs would appear, the basement wall would crack. So they call me. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not a general contractor, but I can help you with that. So they paid, and I went down to Southern Indiana, and my rule of thumb is once I come on to scene, I need for you to leave. I need for you to trust me and then leave and leave me on your place by myself. That way, these attachments or whoever is there or whatever is there doesn't jump on you. So I had them leave. So I go I'm upstairs. I usually start downstairs and work my way up. Something prompted me to sit on the middle of the floor in the middle of the house. So I had my drum and I'm drumming and I sit down, and as soon as I close my eyes, I got a young man sitting to me, couldn't have been any more than 19 or 20 years old. He had, it looks like it had a Confederate and the other type of uniform on. He had both of them on, and he had a crazy looking hat, and he had one shoe on and didn't have another. So we're talking, and he's telling me that there was a skirmish at this location right here, and that there was a lot of people who died. And when he said that, then I started getting visuals of different scenarios going on, and there would be 3 or 4 bodies laying here, 4 or 5 here, 3 or 4 there, a dozen or so here. And I mean, the view from where I was at was spectacular. A nice gully, bag trees, background. It was just beautiful back there. So I'm seeing all these people laying around here, men and women, and there's a few kids over here that passed also. So it's like, oh, Lordy mercy. So I'm tuned in. I'm listening to him, and I'm rattling. So I start bringing people from spirit, friends, family, loved ones of those who are trapped here to help come and assist these folks are crossing over. And then I ask for rescue spirits of the light and warrior spirits of the light for them all to come over and help with these people to cross over. So I'm here, and I get a whoosh of this, and there's a bunch crossing over. I get a whoosh here, there's a bunch crossing over, and just it's going on all around me, and it's like I'm in tears because of the emotions that I'm going through. I feel it from all these people. They've been here for 100 years or better. So I'm getting a flash. I'm getting a flash. I'm getting another flash. So I don't get any more, and I open my eyes, and he's still sitting here, and he's got tears coming down, and he's thanking me profusely for helping these folks out. They've been here for a very long time. And then he's starting to go, and I see him turn around, and he goes, "Thank you so much." And then he's gone. And then the energy of the place changed immediately. When the light closed, it was like things come alive. The birds are singing. I could hear, blue jay in the background. I could hear a crow over there. And it's like, oh, wow, that was really crazy and cool. So I sit there for another probably 5, maybe 6 minutes, and I drum to close the door that opened. And, I'm thanking everybody for coming forth, and I'm in complete and total gratitude. My heart is singing. I got tears coming down, trying real hard not to bawl because of what just happened. It's really emotional seeing this take place. So when it's all said and done, I got up and I walk around and I'm drumming and I'm rattling, closing everything up, and I just get this overwhelming calm and it just come through me, and I feel and hear gratitude. It's just, that's unconditional love when you can feel gratitude coming from just space. So I put my hands on the house and I thank the house and I blessed it and I blessed the land and this and that. So about 2 hours later, when I'm done, it was about 2 hours. So I call the lady and her husband, and they come in from town. They all went out to eat, and they come back in, and I was telling them the story, and they were big-eyed, and the lady was kind of shaking a little bit. I don't know what was going on there at that time. So they go, well, can you go with us for a little bit? I said, well, sure, fine. I thought maybe they was going to take me out to eat, but anyways, so we get in their vehicle. It was a truck. We go down their drive, and we go to the bottom of the hill, and we turn left, going around the big hill, and we get to the backside of the hill, and there's a graveyard there, and it was a memorial graveyard that celebrated the lives of everybody that was in this particular skirmish. And I told her at the time there was about 700 or so, without being exact, that crossed over. Well, the graveyard was for 750 people. And when I saw the graveyard, it's like, ooh, I may have turned white because they asked me if I was okay. Because I wasn't expecting the synchronicity that fast to happen. So when they showed me that, I was beside myself. It's like, well, thank you. It was so cool to be able to do that. So that was a story of trust and of truth. And, don't leave one person behind.
Why
So,
wouldn't they cross over, though? That's my question.
They were stuck in the loop of the trauma of the skirmish. And a lot of them were really religious people. So early on in life, we're told, don't kill, don't do this or do that. You're going to go to hell. So you got the fear of religion already set in like concrete, and they're not going to go because when you do die, immediately there's a guide or a relative or a good friend or an animal that appears for you to help you to cross over. That's how we go. Is if my mom comes to me, see you later, guys. I'm out of here. So
people you
when that
trust.
does, yeah, when that does happen to people, because of the fact that we were told in religious text, not in religious text, this has to do with the pastors, the ministers, and all those people. If you see a spirit coming from the light, it's the devil. Don't go. You're going to go to hell. Come on, man. Seriously. So that's what I have to do with probably about 90% of the time. And the other 10 or 8% is people don't know that they've died. It happens so fast. You're still doing what you were doing. You're just not the physical anymore, and you stay there. The light does appear, and a lot of people just don't go to it because of fear, and they don't know what had happened. So they're stuck here and they stay here. The light will always be there. It's just a matter of recognizing it, recognize it as love, and then going to it. But it's always there. And a lot of times when I'm talking to people who have passed that haven't crossed over, it's convincing them to go into the light. Because I ask for family, friends, and loved ones to come forth from the light and assist and help with the healing. And if your grandmother appears and you think she's the devil, you think she's going to come back for you? Yeah, she will actually come back for you once you wash off the brainwashing stuff that's been going on with you. So then you'll cross over. But the light is there, and it will always be there for us. It's just a matter of stepping into it, recognizing it, and stepping into it.
There's a couple
Thank
of
you.
things that are really interesting about that story, Randall, about the the Confederate stories or Confederate men. And that is that, and here's where I would have loved to have been there to ask them. So I know that Indiana was primarily blue. It was they fought for the Union. So there were pockets in southern Indiana where these Confederate assault platoons were. So isn't it interesting that the individuals that were traumatized and were having a difficult time going to the light happened to be on the Confederate side. I mean, I wonder why, and why did they congregate there? Well, you explained that because there was a graveyard very close to it, right?
Yep.
So that to me is really interesting. You know, what the heck? Why are you guys here? Why are there no Union soldiers? Because my gosh, they went through
Well,
horrific things.
there was actually Union soldiers there with Confederate soldiers, and they were Native Americans there. There were settlers there. It was, I'm
Oh,
not sure who started the skirmish or who the skirmish was against. But I mean, there was Native Americans, there was blacks, there were whites, there were both sides of the fence there. So I don't know if the Confederates came in and everybody got onto them, or if it was just, I don't know what had taken place. All I knew is I crossed a bunch of people over.
right. So Jennifer and I, we are hypnotists, and we almost every single session that she and I have, we deal with attachments. And sometimes I feel like the way that the client has sort of integrated that information is they think of it as a metaphor, that it's not an actual entity, a physical entity that attaches. And then we both had the opposite happen, where these clients were like, oh no, this is not a metaphor. I have a physical attachment to me. And this guy is a major alcoholic. And guess what? So am I. And the story continues from there. You know, they latch
Yes,
on sometimes because they think they're getting something vicariously through you. They're really not, but they think they are. And a lot of them are afraid to go to the light.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. The amount of alcoholics that has been crossed over is just, it's mind boggling. It's just mind boggling. You know,
Yeah.
and in order for a deceased alcoholic to get a taste of alcohol, you've got to drink a ton, and I mean a ton, for them to get just a little sample of that. So that's why a lot of people who are severe alcoholics have an attachment or two on them. And it's not uncommon to pull three, four, five attachments off of somebody, especially when it's alcohol related. Because all it takes is just a couple drinks, and your aura is your natural defense mechanism. If your aura is depleted by alcohol, it only takes one drink to deplete it down to the point where an attachment can walk right into you. Oh boy, we're screwed at that point. So,
So when you're healing someone and you can tell that they have all kinds of attachments or one or two,
yes,
how do you perceive that attachment? How are you able to recognize and see that attachment?
I will talk to them.
Do they talk to you first? Is that how you know that they're
No, they don't talk to me first. It
you ask?
once I touch you, I can see into your aura, and then I can see into your energetic field. If you have a blob in your energetic field, that's an attachment to me. It's either a dark force entity or it's another spiritual presence there. So, and we got ways of not dealing with, but helping out those particular types of entities, either dark force or whatever else may be there. You could be an animal or whatever, but usually I sense it, and then I can start communicating to it. You know, this is kind of a quick, funny one. I was working on I don't remember if it was a man or a woman, but I put my hands on her head. I'm doing a Reiki treatment, you know, and I I talk in my head 99% of the time because I don't want my client to think that I'm freaking out on them by talking to a spirit while they're laying there on the table. So do a lot of communications via telepathy, psychic intervention, or whatever. So I asked the question, is there anybody here? Because usually I'll get a name and I hear, there's nobody here. Cool. Yeah, there is. So, you know, you gotta, they're jokesters, you know, and I
Yeah.
tell people too a lot. If you get a spirit, if you get somebody who was alive and they were an asshole and they died and they didn't cross over, they're still an asshole. You know, we
Yeah.
don't lose those things until you go into the light. So you still have all of those personalities that you're trying to deal with, not manipulate, but trying to deal with and converse with them in a very loving, genuine way that they'll respond back to you. And when that happens, now the magic begins, you know. I
Yeah.
love that. But you got to be able to communicate. And 90% of the time, it's convincing them that there is no such thing as hell. You're not really dead. You're talking to me, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not dead. You're obviously talking to me. I'm talking back, and you're talking back to me. So there's no death. There is no death. So by being able to communicate with them, now I can gently talk to them and communicate in a way that's coming from compassion, from my heart, you know. And when that happens, and we've got a communication established, the light will glow and appear, usually right in the corner of a room or on the side, just by them. And almost 100% of the time, when that happens, I can see them looking up and tears, and their eyes are big because now they got
Wow.
family, friends, and loved ones who come for
Mhm.
them to help them cross over. And you know, almost 100% of the time, I don't get the opportunity to finish talking to them because as soon as they appear, they're out of here.
They're gone.
They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
gone. You know, so and that's to me, I love this. I love this. My daughter is my deepest love in life. I love this. This is absolutely just. I'm passionate about what I do here. I
You can
love.
tell, can really tell. I mean,
Yeah.
the love and the type of energy that is in your eyes is just incredible, Randall. I mean, I can see it. I can
That's just
see.
the glasses.
No,
Randall,
no, it's not. No, no, no. Go
how do you
ahead.
Thank you.
maintain your own spiritual hygiene to be able to continue on with all this? How
Right.
do you know that, you're safe and clean from attachments that you're not being blocked, like your chakra system? How do you know that you're in the flow, if you will, and aligned?
I do protection prayers pretty much all the time. It's not first. I do it first thing in the morning. It's not one time. It's not two times. It's not a dozen times. It's every time I can think of it, and I got to spare a minute between thoughts. I'll put protection around me because I get inundated because of what I do by spirit, and I mean inundated. I go to a nursing home. Oh my God! You go to, a funeral home is. Oh, Lordy mercy. A hospital? Yeah. So I put protection around me. And the big one for me, I trust my guides. And you
Mhm.
have to trust,
There you go.
you know. It's like believing in God. I don't believe in God. I know God.
Right.
It's like, do I believe my guides are going to protect me? No, I know they're going to protect me. They keep putting things in front of me to do this type of work. They wouldn't put things in front of me for me to commit suicide, because of all the energies I get attached to and attached to me and this and that. So I've learned through communicating with my guides how to properly, if there is such a thing, is protect myself. I put the white and gold light of love and protection around me and through me. And I need to visualize that happening for me to feel secure. Now, this is my own little blanket sucking thumb type of deal here. For me to feel secure about my stuff, I need to see it happening, so I'll do that. And then I'll protect my aura because our aura is our natural defense mechanism. So I'll put the baby bird egg of love and protection around my aura. Now I've got that going on. And because God had graced me by touching the end of the rainbow one time, that I bring that energy into me too. So I've got those going on. And at that particular point, I can open the door for communications from everybody, and then we're ready to go. But I
Beautiful.
do that. I do that all the time. I have to. I have to because of what I do, you know.
I just
Yeah,
love what you do.
I do
I
too,
love your work. I
honestly.
love how you do it.
Honestly, Jennifer, I do too. Juliana, I do too. I love what I do. I mean, honestly, I really do. There are times when it can be, a little pushy here and there, but for the most part, I was pushed down a flight of stairs by a spirit one time, ended up breaking my
Oh,
iliac spine,
uh,
which is the
oh,
both hip joints.
oh, yeah.
I was dating his daughter. He had
Mm.
died. He was an alcoholic and he had been molesting her over the years. So when I went to her mother's house with her to help out a little bit, I had a garbage can or a garbage sack in one hand, and I had a beer in the other hand. I didn't even take a drink out of the beer yet, just trying to unwind. I had a stressful day, so I thought I'd volunteer and take out the garbage and help out Lovey. Here, you have a beer if you want. Okay, cool. First one of the day. Awesome. So I take one step. There were 20 steps. I took one step and I felt a push. And that push caught me, and I hit the very bottom step, the last step on the stairs.
Oh
I
my
hit the very
God.
bottom one straight across my lower back on the hips. And I ended up breaking the iliac spine, and it took me 6 months to walk again.
Oh no, that's so
So
painful.
when I'm laying there in an agony, complete agony, I look back and I see him, and he's laughing and he's pointing his finger at me. And then he disappears. I'm going, buddy, when I'm done, we're going to have a little chat. So a few months later, I'm on crutches and I go over there, and I sit on the steps and he pops in and we talk, and he crosses over reluctantly, but he did cross over, and then everything was cool and clean, and then my wound started healing better after that too. So yeah, and then here not long ago, well, it's been a couple of years now. I was asked by a friend to go and check a friend of his out for an attachment. So, and he, fresh out of the military, has almost 20 claimed kills, so he wants me to check him for attachments. So I go into the house, and I typically will not allow anybody but me and the person there in case something happens. Nobody needs to be hurt except for me or the person that I'm working with. So I grab his hand and I check him. And when I did, he started pushing me. He started pushing me and he started pushing me. And before I know it, he and I are on the floor, and the one guy steps in and we get him on the floor, get him subdued, this and that, So there was his wife, his daughter, his son, the guy that invited me, his girlfriend, and his daughter were all there. That was a no-no on my behalf to begin with. It should only been just the two of us there. So that was a mistake on my behalf. So when it was all said and done, we ended up having to call the police. They arrested the guy and yada, yada, yada. But there's a couple morals of the story here. If he would have had an actual attachment on him, he would have threw me across the room. He would not have pushed me. He would have threw me, especially if these were Afghanistanians or whatever that he killed. They would want revenge, so they would have seriously hurt me. So I knew it was a fake and a show at that particular moment, because he was a big dude. I'm 5'10". He was 6'1", 6'2". I took him to the floor, albeit I know martial arts, but I still took him to the floor. It's like if that had been an actual attachment, he'd have hurt me. Really, he'd have hurt me. So the moral of that story is, never again will I go into a place where there's a crowd of people and they want me to perform. That was kind of what I was feeling like that was. So I won't do that again. And I will not allow other people within the room when I'm doing stuff like that at all. Because if it had been an actual attachment that he had attached to somebody else, it could have been a very disastrous scene. So then that's why I don't do that anymore. If you want me to check you out, you need to come onto my turf, and where I know that all my people are here, so I'll check in this and that. But the funny thing about that statement is I've had people walk into my door and walk right back out again because they don't want nothing to do with what I'm doing. It's because the attachments are scared. They don't want to go to the light because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if I'm going to send them to hell or whatever the case may be, which I don't do that anyways. We all come from the light. We'll all go back to the light eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have found that it's helpful for me in during hypnosis with a client, if there are attachments, and some of them, as you know, Randall, can be very stubborn.
Oh man.
And you have to really work at getting them. And the way that I have been able to deal with most of them that are afraid is offer to escort them to the light for a very short period of time and tell them that if they don't like it, that we can always go back. Well,
I
of
do the
course,
same thing.
once they're in the presence of the light and source and everything, they're like, "Oh my God, no! Thanks, bye."
Yeah,
I'm
we
going that way.
don't exist at that point anymore. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I tell almost every spirit that I help, I tell them the same thing. If it's not, come on back. Come on back. But I'm telling you, you won't want to see me again when you go over there. You'll go home and you'll go celebrate with your family and your friends and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's great. I do the same thing.
Can I ask you a question about, can we go back to your near-death experience for a minute?
Sure.
So there were two things I wanted to ask you about. I was
Okay.
wondering if you could elaborate on the Akashic records. Like, were you able at that age to figure out really what they are? And then secondly, I wanted
No.
to ask you about, okay, so that that answers that question.
Yeah. No.
So you
Yeah.
didn't know what they represented. What did they come to represent to you as you grew?
I didn't know. I was puzzled the entire time until I dove into shamanism and I had heard about Akashic records. And I'm going, what's Akashic records? My family was Southern Baptist. You didn't talk about stuff like that. So, once I dove into this, of course, you're reading palms and this and that, and the Akashic records keeps coming up. So I studied the Akashic records and exactly what that was. I thought it was just a sliver of light. That's all I thought it was. I didn't think anything else about it. Yeah, just walked right by it. I didn't think anything about it.
So when you put your hands in the confetti, you described it as being this incredible kind of energy. What do you think each of those confetti pieces actually represented?
Different levels of healing.
Wow. And you saw a million there in this well, right? It was
Oh,
probably
absolutely. It
infinite.
was all the colors, every color you can think of, from magentas to pinks, purples, blues. There wasn't browns, there wasn't blacks. But there were all the other colors, orange, greens, yellows, purples, tans and things like that. But there wasn't black and there wasn't black. I didn't see any black.
Interesting.
A very little red. Everything was luminescent. It was shimmering, really shimmering, but there was no dark colors. It was all light. It felt it felt like I was being blessed and blasted with energy at the same time because I had a tingling sensation going on in my hands, and I can feel it now as I'm talking about it. My hands are hot. So I need to touch somebody here soon, and wish you guys were here. I'd touch you right now.
Yeah, I
But
wish I was too.
let me send you some energy healing here. If you get warm, sorry, but here you go. So, anyways, I would get that. And ironically about that too, is whenever I'm near somebody, it's not even really unknown to me at the time. They could have something going on with them that could be life threatening, and I'm not picking it up, but my hands will automatically get hot. And then I start vibrating and tingling, and then I get really hypersensitive. And it's like, okay, who needs this? I need to touch somebody. If nobody is brought out to me, sometimes I'll go around and just introduce myself just to shake hands or pat somebody on the
Wow.
back, or just
Yeah.
hug somebody I see just to exchange the energy. I'm a hugger to begin with. So I like to exchange that energy. And if I do feel something going on with you and I can't get to you, I'll send it to you across the room. There's no separation in space and time, as you guys know that too.
So you've been guided in one way or another, even to kind of trick people, it seems, into letting you touch them, like, the Reiki or the palmistry. That, what a clever way. And there is healing in these things, of course, but
Absolutely.
you've added on to your God-given abilities. Do you think that you're done, or do you think that
Oh,
you're
no.
going to be continuing to do this until the end of your experience here?
I think this is kind of still in the beginning stages of what's really going on here. I'm hoping to live to be at least 150 or better. So I'll continue doing this until I take my last breath. And hopefully at that time, I'll be helping some people cross over then too.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right. Because once a psychopomp, always a psychopomp.
always, and I help animals too. I love animals, just love animals. So yeah, and they know it too. I mean, I could walk in somebody's house and if they got 4 or 5 cats, the 4 or 5 cats are sitting on my lap.
Well,
So,
and ergo the bird, your friend.
oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, can't forget about my birds.
Oh gosh, this has just been so interesting and so beautiful. And I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your
Thank you.
stories, Randall, because they are fascinating. And Jennifer, I don't know how you feel, but I still have like 50 more questions that I want to ask.
Yeah, I could continue for a while.
So
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead. Seriously.
well, unfortunately we have to go, but here's what I was going to ask you. Would you be willing to come on again so we could have maybe a part 2 or something and we
Sure.
could discuss those
Sure.
sorts of things?
It would be a pleasure to be able to share this. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, because they
Yeah.
are fascinating. And what this channel, Souls on Tap, is about is helping to enlighten
Okay.
and
Very good.
and help with the awakening. And boy, have you done that today in spades. So I just appreciate it so much.
I've been looking forward to this interview here. I've done a lot of interviews, but when we talked over the phone here a few weeks back, I love both of you. You guys are you're my kind of people.
Oh, well, thank you,
Thank you
Randall.
for saying that,
I'm
Randall.
telling you, that's very sweet. And that means a lot to us. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So,
Is there any message that you would like to leave with our listeners before we actually end the show?
Okay. Yes, there is. In your near-death experience, what I did learn is you don't die. Absolutely do not die. There is no such thing as death. And you will become everybody you've ever encountered in your lifetime. In your near-death experience, you will become everybody you've ever experienced. You will feel what you said and done to these particular people. And then you will feel how it went down their line as to what your actions did to them, either loving actions or hateful actions or whatever it was. You will become everybody you've ever encountered, including your dentist, your doctor, the person in the cashier lane, everybody you've ever encountered. So with that little bit of knowledge, how are you going to treat people now?
that's wonderful. And I didn't ask you about a life review. And so that sounds a little bit like what I've heard other indie ears talk about, is how during their transition or near-death experience, I should say, they somehow are able to understand that the review happens sometimes a little bit later, depending on what sort of healing the spirit needs prior to that, or maybe right away if that's the right time for it.
Yeah.
So, but that, what a beautiful thing that you just said, because really and truly, that's what I think is the most important thing on this earth, is kindness and love.
Absolutely.
I really do. I think we can move mountains through
Absolutely.
love and kindness.
Yeah. I love everybody. I don't hate too much at all. I don't want to feel that when it's my turn to go back again, so that's why I love and I hug and I try to give support to everybody all the time, even if it just costs me whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a martyr, but I would love to help everybody.
That's wonderful.
Thank you,
That's
Randall.
wonderful. Do you have a website where people can get in touch with you, or an email or something?
That is under process right now, is the website. I do have an email you guys can pass on if you'd like to. If anybody has any questions or something that'd like me to help them out with, absolutely.
Okay.
It's lowercase Randall Smith 800 at gmail.com.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Can you also do me a favor, Randall? Can you just email that to me?
Yes, I sure can.
Because I'm going to put it in your conversation box, and I'm going to put it down below in the description box as well.
Awesome. Very good.
So thanks again. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you who have joined us today. Thank you so much for tuning into Souls on Tap. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a drop of wisdom. We would love for you to share any thoughts that you have about today's episode and add any type of healing modalities that you'd like us to showcase, because remember, we are here absolutely for you. Jennifer, did you want to say something about our directory?
Yes, if you go to www.soulsontap.com, we have a directory of all of our beautiful guests that have been on the show. And you can find out how to get in touch with them, and also a reminder about what they do.
Great. So until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you on Souls on Tap.